religion is also a way of life. And Islam, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, now explained and exemplified the life and teachings of the Honorable Silas Muhammad. We are thankful and appreciative for having this day, August 21st, to celebrate. August 21st is a day when a special letter was written by the Honorable Silas Muhammad to Imam Wallace Ward Dean Muhammad, the physical son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the person believed to be the heir apparent to the throne, if you will, of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad after his passing. It was said that Master Farad Muhammad made the statement that, or it is in Muslim tradition, or could I say folklore, that Master Farad Muhammad wrote Wallace's name on the back of the door and told the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he would do a great work in assisting him. I don't remember which message from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad contains what I'm about to share with you, but I do recall seeing a message where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was questioned as to whether or not this event, the writing of Imam Wallace Dean Muhammad's name on the back of the door, was actually something that occurred. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad's reply to the question was, I don't know whether it occurred or not, but I don't have any awareness of it. So we don't know whether or not that's an actual fact, an actual historical fact that Master Farad Muhammad wrote Wallace's name on the back of the door and that he would do a great work for his father. Nevertheless, it was accepted and believed by the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and as a result, Imam Wallace Dean Muhammad was treated quite special. He was taught significantly more by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad than I taught anyone else. I think Malcolm is up there at that level of being taught directly as well. And so the believers expected him to take charge, and at the death of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him. And let me pause for a second. Like I said, I was a little part of it. I want to give honor, praise, express gratitude and appreciation for the coming of the Almighty Truth to us in the person of the Master Farad Muhammad, for his raising up the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him, our spiritual mother, Mary of the book. And praise, honor, gratitude, and appreciation to the Honorable Silas Muhammad for the work that he has done to free us. Honor, respect, and elevation to our beloved Queen, Her Grace, Queen Mashaki Muhammad. And in this spirit of gratitude, I have to express gratitude to all of the people who have helped me to get to this position where I'm able to share this with you today. It has been a struggle to get here to Los Angeles and get myself set up. But I'm here now, ready to start. This is August 21st. It is the day that I decided to give my first message from Los Angeles to any of you who care to do. When I left the minister's post approximately 3.5 years ago here in Los Angeles. We were at the height of COVID, and I was teaching virtually uh, via Zoom. Well, I'm returning as in the same manner in which I left with the virtual temple here utilizing Zoom, not because of the pandemic, but because of the current circumstances that exist here in Los Angeles. In his declaration of spiritual war, dated August 21st, 1977, the instrument responsible for all that is occurring among us today, Mr. Muhammad made the statement, watch the result of my coming, of my return. When he did that, the atmosphere in the Nation of Islam and the Black community had been gravely affected by the passing of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him. And Imam Wallace Dean Muhammad took charge of the Lost Foundation of Islam. In taking charge of the Nation of Islam, he went to war with the believers in the teachings of his father. He went to war with the God of his father, claiming Master Farad Muhammad wasn't no God, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was no messenger of God, and that he was teaching true Islam, which was teaching the religious beliefs of Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the Arab prophet from approximately 1400 years ago. And he supplanted the teachings of his father with the teachings of Prophet Muhammad. This you will find written about in the book of Revelations, where it said that he blasphemed in his father's house and blasphemed his father's God for a particular amount of time. I believe it was 42 months. Well, this time and work of Imam Wallace Muhammad fits or fills that prophecy. Why is this important? Because I want to give you the spirit that existed back in that day. I met a young brother at that while I was managing Yasin's Fish Supreme over National. And the brother's name was, I don't remember his specific name, I'm going to give you a similar. Kareem Abdul Johnson. I said, brother, how did you get a name like Kareem Abdul Johnson? And he told me the story that he was born in the Nation of Islam into the family of some followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't give his believers, the majority of them, names. There were some selected believers he gave names to, including our leader and teacher, the Honorable Cyrus Muhammad. But for the most part, the believers went by an X. So his parents were John X, Kathy X, etc. Clarence 13X meant that there were 13 Clarences in this particular temple. So his family they gave him Muslim names when he was born, but since they didn't change their surname, the surname remained the same. But the more interesting part of his story, and his sharing his story with me, was what his mother warned him of. and this might help you see the climate of the day. His mother told him, if anybody asks you who you believe in, you simply say, I believe in Allah. Don't say Almighty Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Muhammad. That could get you killed, because Wallace and his followers were at war with the Muslims. And it was dangerous to say you believed in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Very dangerous. And that's an important backdrop, because Cyrus Muhammad left here, Los Angeles, traveling first to Phoenix, Arizona, to leave a copy of his letter entitled Declaration of Spiritual War with Bernard Kushner, then Minister Bernard Kushner, who later became known as Jibril Muhammad, who has also passed away. Peace be upon him. Then he traveled from Phoenix to Chicago to deliver his letter, Declaration of Spiritual War. When he left to go and deliver that letter, he fully expected to be killed. He fully expected to die. He decided that if he dies, he wants the reason for his death to be known, and that he would be making history whether he lived or died. He took out an insurance policy with an attempt to protect his family from his loss, and then went forward as an FOI, as a soldier, to reestablish the lost foundation of Islam to its original footing that we were placed on by Almighty Allah, who appeared in the person of the Quran. Praise of that I do. So that's how we got to August 21st, 1977, Declaration of Spiritual War, declared on Imam Wallace Dean Muhammad and his spiritual God, or his spirit God, Allah. War was declared for the purpose of establishing the kingdom of God that we have all been praying for. And when we bring up this statement, kingdom of God, it reminds me of another teaching by our beloved messenger, the most honorable Elijah. He pointed out that we were not speaking the white man's language. Yet, he said that using English words, which was for me quite confusing. How is it that we are not speaking the white man's language, yet we're using the white man's words to communicate? In his original, or in the very first Theology of Time lecture, June 4th, 1972, early in the lecture, right at the beginning, he made a statement that I have examined closely. He said, if I had just jumped out of the white man's colleges and university, I would be speaking to you in their language. This theology, as we call it, science, I'd be teaching you theirs. Interesting statement. I would be speaking to you in their language means he's not speaking to you in their language, yet he's using their language, or the words of their language, to convey that thought. We are speaking a different language. As a result of careful examination of that and asking myself some questions and trying to get to an understanding of what it is this means, how is this a different language that we are speaking? I come to a simple example that might help you to understand that we could be speaking the same language and yet at the same time speaking a different language. Let's say, for example, in our audience, we have Black people who are from the United States of America, say Detroit or Chicago. And we have Black people who are from Great Britain, say London or Brixton. And I say to that audience containing both groups, go out to the garage and grab my umbrella out of the boot. If you're born here in the United States of America, you're from Detroit, you're going to be in the garage looking for a boot, a cowboy boot, work boot, a snow boot, a boot with an umbrella sticking out of it. But if you're from London or Brixton, you're going to be wondering where the keys to the car are so that you could open the trunk. Because in Great Britain, the boot is the car trunk. Same language, different language. Because if I'm in London and I only speak American English and you say, go get the umbrella out of the boot, I'm going to be in your garage looking for some boots that might not be there when you were talking about the trunk. So likewise, in order for us to properly assess, judge, evaluate what we're being taught by these three great Muhammads, we would have to be speaking the same language. For example, man is God. I'm God. You're God. We're God is a statement that we Muslims have a tendency to make on a pretty regular basis. And you who believe in a spirit God or a spirit Allah or a deity by whatever name you use, your deity, your God, your Allah, has supernatural powers. In fact, that's what religion means, to submit to the authority of a supernatural entity. Master Farad Muhammad is not a supernatural entity. He's a human being, a man. So in our language, when we say man is God, we're not taking the white man's language, science, theology, and applying that definition of God to ourselves and saying we are supernatural. I'm everywhere all at once. I've got all the power. I can count all the hairs on your head. I am not saying that about myself when I say man is God or I am God. In our language, God and man are synonymous terms. They mean the same thing. It's that simple. When you take the definition of God to the dictionary, or take the word God or Allah to the dictionary, it comes back as supreme being. Being means to be, to exist. And we live here on earth, we exist. And we see all sorts of other life existing on our earth. Animal life, plant life, microscopic life. And of all of these lives, all of these beings, man is supreme. Any being that exists beyond man, there is no evidence of the existence of it whether it exists or not. There's no evidence. So we have decided to lose no more time searching for something that does not exist. Evidence of a supernatural God. We have accepted that man is God without all of the supernatural trappings. So to assess what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been teaching us, utilizing the white man's theology and language, you'll never get it. Because there's nothing I'll be ever able to say to you to cause you to think, I got supernatural power. You're going to ask me to walk on water. And I can walk on water, or I believe that I can walk on water. We will see here pretty soon. But I don't mean the same as you mean when you read it in his language. His walking on water is not the same as our walking on water. We don't have, the Honorable Silas Muhammad doesn't have, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't have, Master Farad Muhammad has no supernatural power, just knowledge. Knowledge. This ought to make sense. 100 years ago, they didn't know how to make money. 100 years ago, they didn't know how to take their watch and make a phone call. 100 years ago, we could not be on this YouTube having a conversation. Why we can do it now? Because we have knowledge that we didn't have then. There's nothing supernatural about it. We're human beings with knowledge. So in order for you to understand what we are talking about on these missions that we are on, you first have to understand, you have to learn our language. And then you have to make an assessment of what we are talking about based on the language we're speaking, not the language they speak. And we've been speaking our own language here in the United States of America for quite some time. We've always done. One of my favorite examples of us speaking our own language, utilizing English words, unassociated with Lost Foundation of Islam, is one of my favorites, throwing shade. Think about that phrase that we came up with, throwing shade. I remember when I first heard it, I didn't know what in the world was being talked about. Throwing shade, what is that? Well, the reason why the phrase throwing shade doesn't exist in his language is because there's nothing in his world that it would need to express. See, in our world, we have a light that comes off of us. We get that thing going. We're starting to shine. We're starting to make something happen. We're starting to achieve. And there's always somebody who don't want to see you shine. So they want to put a shade over you so that your light can't be seen by others. We call it throwing shade. Well, if you went to the dictionary, if I had gone to the dictionary when I first heard this, throwing shade, and looked up throwing and looked up shade, I would not have been able to make sense out of the phrase throwing shade. Yet, we understood it thoroughly. So we are using words from his language to convey ideas and concepts that are unique to us, that do not apply to them or others. So I wanted to make sure that I put some emphasis on the thought as we go forward. Like I said tonight, we're just having a little talk. I know I'm a minister and I usually teach, but I can teach on Sunday. Tonight I just want to talk about this wonderful moment we're called Founders Day and why it's so significant. It's a wonderful, wonderful day. While we're talking about it, I want to point out one more dialect. We're told in our 66 trillion years ago that there was a God among us who was dissatisfied to the point of wanting to destroy us because he could not get us to speak the same dialect. Interesting. Why would that cause a God or a man to want to destroy all of us, the entire earth? We had technology that the white man is not aware of. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us that, or taught us that the pyramids were built using a special hydraulics that is not available today and won't be utilized again until after we remove the white man from the earth, because we don't want him to have our knowledge. So we have always had a technology greater than this baby walking on the earth compared to us. If we were here 66 trillion years ago, and this particular God drilled down into the earth, deep, deep down into the earth, and he filled the hole with dynamite. And we were taught 100% dynamite, whereas the dynamite being used today is about 70%. And he dug this hole down into the earth, and he blew it up, seeking to destroy us all, but he was not successful. What he did do was cause the earth to move out of its pocket and drop into another pocket and separate the moon from the earth. Prior to that, Mars was our moon. But he didn't succeed. And that we were lucky. We were on this part of Earth, and not the part that got blown away called the moon. The moon is simply a dry piece of once Earth without water, because all of its water spilled back onto this part we live on. And that we are from the tribe of Shabazz, and that the tribe of Shabazz is the first one to discover the best part of the earth to live on. So as you can see, we can go on and on with the discussion about history. But I brought up 66 trillion years ago to talk about dialect. What is it about wanting everyone to speak the same dialect that is so frustrating and aggravating that it would drive a person to a state of mind that he wants to simply destroy everyone? What would do that? I think about the religious adherents, those who are staunch in what they believe. There is no way it could be but their way. If you are not following the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita in their precise way, then you're going to die and go to hell. You got to be this way. Well, that would mean that we would all be speaking the same dialect, because the term it is a particular form of language which is specific to a region or social group. And we speak different dialects. You can hear it in conversation with people. The different dialects represent the different schools of knowledge and training and thought and belief that exist in our great diversity as a brand new emerging people called Afro-descendants. And as a Muslim follower of the lost found Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Cyrus Muhammad. And when I say the Honorable Cyrus Muhammad, you can't listen or read anything that he teaches and not learn about his love, honor, and respect. And I should say great love, great honor, great respect that he has for the Honorable Elijah. But as a follower of the Honorable Cyrus Muhammad, I want you to understand these books. I want you to understand these teachings. I want you to speak the dialect I speak. It would mean that you have agreed, you accept and believe what I believe as I believe it. That makes us all feel good. It matters not what we believe. You who are Christian, you who are Buddhist, if you found me embracing your way of life and coming with your dialect, it would make you feel good in the heart. I've observed. Well, as a people, we are the combination of all of the elements that comprise a nation or a state. We are as diverse, or probably more diverse, than any other nation of people. And we exist in all of our diversity under the flag of the United States of America. We who are in the United States of America, most of us identify as African American. There's those who do not, and I know that we exist in not just the Nation of Islam, but the Moors don't consider themselves Americans either. There are different groups that don't, but the majority, Black people, descendants of slavery in the United States of America, call themselves African American. They agree on being American in all of their or our diversity. There is nothing whatsoever preventing us from exercising the same level of diversity among ourselves under our own flag representing our own government and nation. We just have to accept the reality that we're not going to all speak the same dialect. The Orthodox Muslim, and this is the term used to describe them, they're also Sunni Muslim or Shia Muslim. They have a different religious practice than does the Nation of Islam Muslim. And then among the Nation of Islam Muslims, there is also diversity and different religious practices. Not just the two that you are mostly aware of. There are several. My brother Derek Muhammad in Detroit follows brother Marvin Muhammad, the son of May. There are those who follow the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's blood brother, the minor prophet, Minister John Muhammad, peace be upon him. There are several different groups, different dialects within the Nation of Islam. We don't need another movement. We don't need to therefore try to force everyone to speak the same dialect. What we need is to agree that we are a nation and agree on the principles on which this nation stands. We all want a nation based on truth and fairness. We want a nation based on freedom, justice, and equality. We have prayed for it for years in the nation of Islam. But before I came to the nation of Islam, I prayed for it as a Christian. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Isn't a kingdom a government or a nation? You've been praying for the same thing I've been praying for. You've been praying for it with a different dialect, but we want the same thing, the kingdom of God. And in the kingdom of God, you would expect it to be a righteous kingdom. You would expect it to be a clean nation. You would expect it to have a truthful government. We want the same thing. If we want the same thing, does it matter that we say it a different way? Does it matter we believe a different thing about it coming to it? When I introduced myself as both a member of the Afro-descendant nation and as a member of the lost found nation of Islam. We are all a part of the Afro-descendant nation. We are not all part of the lost found nation of Islam. And just so that you know, even though I am here as minister for the lost found nation of Islam, the mission that I am accepting and placing on myself is that of helping Mr. Muhammad populate the Afro-descendant nation with the other elements of our community. This is important to us. We are truly, truly a great people. We are the cream of the planet Earth. We are to rise to the top. We are the people, and this is the generation that we, the people of the Afro-descendant nation, are to fulfill that prophecy of the least becoming the most and the most becoming the least. It don't take rocket science to figure this out. Everything, every single thing that the white man does, we do also. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad once said that the only difference between us and them is the color. And you know the adage we grew up with. You have to be 10 times better than the white man to get a break at all, to even be recognized and given an opportunity. So that's how we functioned. That's what we did. We became 10 times better at everything he does than him. But we do it for him. We do it to promote his government, to promote his science, his theology, instead of our own. What would happen if we, all of our bright minds, we got some of the greatest minds in the world, always have. It's just that the white man, as a result of our enslavement, or his enslavement of us, has always gotten the credit and owned the product of our labor. Because that's what a slave is, a person whose work is owned and controlled by another. So we haven't gotten credit for our ingenuity and our creativity and our resourcefulness and our inventiveness. He has, but it's been us all along. What would happen What's going to happen when our great minds realize that we are different people? They are not like us, and we are not like them. What's going to happen when we come together and use our great minds to promote and develop our own government, economy, and society with structures that we design, with institutions that promote and cultivate what we desire in our progeny, in our future generations? What would happen when we all come together to do that? We would become the greatest nation in the fastest of any nation in the history of nationhood. And we're promised that it will live forever because it is a government based on truth and righteousness. Those are the founding principles. Now, those founding principles, a nation based on truth and righteousness, that standard applies to the lost foundation of Islam, which shall always exist inside of the Afro-descendant. The Afro-descendant nation is also a nation that shall last forever. And it is based on truth and fairness. That's a different standard. And I say that because it's in our prayer. We have the 5 daily prayers, and we have what each prayer is for. And one of those prayers is for a nation based on truth and fairness. And we pray for that in the morning, and we pray for that in the evening. And the Afro-descendant nation is based on truth and fairness. Righteousness is different. Righteousness is making the right decision in the moment. In order to make the right decision in the moment, you have to make the right assessment. You have to assess all of the pertinent facts necessary to make the decision contemplated. When you have a government that makes its decision based on truth, separating the actual facts from conjecture or guesswork, lies, and theory, what you're left with is actual facts. When you have the actual facts, you are equipped to make the best possible decision in that moment. In another moment, you might have a different fact that would alter your decision. This is why we are an evolving people. But a government based on truth and fairness has nothing that is capable of destroying it. It is the lie that exists in the United States of America that we are fed of. It is the corruption that is the basis of the lie, the wrongdoing that is being hidden by the lies that make America on the verge of total economic collapse, total social collapse, political collapse. People are leaving this country fast. Surprisingly, Black people who are now rapidly self-declaring, I am Afro-descendant. The nationality Afro-descendant is one of the greatest gifts we've ever received. What it is doing for us and shall continue to do for us going forward into the future. And it's so great that we really are not going to be able to thank them for it. It is that way. We have the brightest, greatest future of any people who have ever existed. And we would not have this nationality and all of the beneficial conditions that come along with it if it were not for the instrument delivered to Imam Wallace D. Muhammad, or attempted to be delivered on August 21st, 1977. That is the action or the act that resulted in all of the activity and all of the sharing and explaining of the knowledge of the truth that has occurred over the last 47 years. 47 years. That's how long the Honorable Silas Muhammad has been beloved wife, beloved Queen, Her Grace Mashaki Muhammad. And many of us have been working to get this job done. After his declaration of spiritual war. But he and many others were working before that, assisting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in that phase of his work. This work that we're doing, it is occurring in phases. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we would be making unlimited progress. Unlimited progress means we never stop progress. If you and I take a road trip from Los Angeles to New York, when we leave in the morning and we've driven for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, we've made significant progress from when we left Los Angeles. And the environment has changed. The scenery has changed. The air has changed. The elevation has changed. Everything about the environment is different than it was when we started, because we're making progress. And as we continue through the desert into the Midwest, the environment changes again. The topography changes again. The kind of cities and what you see on the side of the road changes. You now see corn growing instead of desert and red rocks. We're making progress. Nothing looks like it did before, but we're still on the same road, traveling in the same direction to achieve the same objective, which is to get to New York. Well, likewise, our growth as a nation has been progressive. And at every phase of the progress, we moved from where we started to a different time, in a different space, in a different place or environment. So it's not going to look exactly like it did. In the days of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he started teaching after Master Farad Muhammad had left us, the believers were against him. The believers wanted to kill him. He spent 11 years on the run, ducking even his own family members who wanted to take his life. Why? Because he was not teaching the same way Master Farad Muhammad had been teaching. Well, we made progress from when Master Farad Muhammad was teaching, during the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And when you make progress, you change the environment, you change what's happening. It's not going to look the same. But you want it to look the same and at the same time make progress. You can't have them both. In fact, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made the statement, and our Savior has arrived, that everything about the present Islam is going to change. The only thing that will remain the same are the principles of belief. So if you are looking for it to remain the same, you are looking for it to just continue making progress. just like the messenger had trouble when he began his mission. Our Savior, the Honorable Silas Muhammad, he too met with much criticism and threats to his life, being accused of hypocrisy and changing the teaching, when all he was doing was making progress. And you know, for those of you who are not Muslim and have not studied or learned our theology in our language, you're gonna see these things a little differently than we do. See, the book, the Bible talked about it being a flood, 40 years and 40 nights. It rained and flooded the earth. And I was about to say you, but I was included. What I can say, we took that literal. We took it literally that the whole earth was underwater. And if you ask yourself, especially you who are scientific minded, how is it possible to put the entire earth underwater and not add more water to the earth? If the earth is not flooded now, how can we flood it without getting some more water? So the actual physical flooding of the earth, to me, seems like an impossibility. But then there may be you out there who can explain it in a way that make it make sense to me and I can accept it. I submit to truth from whatever source it comes from. It is the thing that keeps me from being locked in a box called a paradigm. Because the paradigm are the rules that you use to govern your decision making in life, and it's based on the truth that you know or believe. And if you have locked your box and cannot accept any new truths, then you can't expand your paradigm. You can't understand things that you don't already understand. I was going through looking at this flood that has been going on now. 47 years. I've got a large box of Muhammad Speaks newspapers. I don't have them all. In fact, I'm missing quite a many, but I got a lot. And I flipped through a few of them this morning. And I don't know if you can see them, but I've got a few of them here. My little background picture makes it difficult for you to see. I apologize for that, but there are approximately 30 Muhammad Speaks in my. This is about a fourth of the papers that I have. There's a lot of information that he has been teaching for so many years. He has flooded us with truth. This article is taxation or tax action, where he's talking about whether or not it is righteous for now self-declaring Afro-descendants to pay taxes in America, where they say no taxation or taxation without representation is dead. Well, we don't give people representation without tax dollars. Should we be paying tax? They used us to develop the society from which they get their tax dollar and didn't pay us when they did it. Should we be paying taxes? In this article, if I recall correctly, he said that one of the first things we should seek in our seeking reparation is to be exempt from taxation. But I was looking through all of these papers and marveling at the flood of truth that has flooded the earth for all these years. For all these years. Let's see here. Let me grab another. controlling the epiphany. This is your life. This is an article that he wrote. If you can see this, Muhammad speaks. So I apologize for the background picture. Maybe I shouldn't try to show those. But in that article, he talked about the prophecies and matched them to our lives and showed us that we are walking right through the prophecy. Everything that the Bible said would happen is happening, but it is happening in our lives. Only it's happening in a way sagaciously different than the way we have interpreted it, or it has been interpreted to us with the white man's theology and science and language. We don't use his, we use a different. I keep emphasizing that. For example, we say about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he is our spiritual mother, Mary of the book. We say about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he is Moses. We say about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that he was John the Baptist. Now that might all be confusing, especially when you read from the way that have been interpreted to us with their theology. That it talked about Moses and John being born too significantly apart and living in different eras altogether. But I want to take one of those. I'll take it there. Let's use it there. Mary was impregnated by God. It was an immaculate conception and a virgin birth, for God impregnated Mary without touching her. She was still a virgin. And that is taught to us literally. We take it on face value that Mary actually got pregnant and without the agency of a physical man. And because we're taught that the God is supernatural, can simply wave his hand and cause whatever it is he wants to cause to happen. We believe that. Yet, I doubt if one of us would accept, male or female, that any of us would accept our daughter, or sister, or wife, or any other, well, wife wouldn't be virgin, but we wouldn't accept any woman coming to us in our family and saying, I'm pregnant, but I haven't been touched by a man. It is not something you would accept or believe. I do not care how staunchly you believe in the teachings of the nation, of the Christian religion, and how much you believe Mary got pregnant and did not get touched by a man. Pardon me, I was distracted. Let's examine it using a different language. You see, if you take all of the words associated with conception, pregnancy, and birth, they all can apply to a concept or an idea just as well as to the conception of a child. However, when we look at it as a concept or an idea, now it doesn't require anything supernatural or miraculous to be true. If as was the case with Almighty Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, who came with a government on his shoulders, as was prophesied. And on his shoulders was the same thing that is on your shoulders, on my shoulders, my head, your head, his head. And in his head was a government. And the concept of this government and the ideas and the strategy about how to bring it about, he shared with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. A virgin mind, in that this mind had never conceived of Islam, had never conceived of us as a nation separate and distinct from the white man's nation. This mind was virgin to those ideas. This mind received or conceived these concepts and ideas and strategies and instructions from Master Farad Muhammad, and carried those ideas as pregnancy. This phone is on silent and ringing. My apologies for that interruption. Let me get back to where I was. The concept of impregnation. To conceive an idea is to become pregnant with the idea. If you have an idea for a business, you have an idea for a book you want to write, you have an idea for a song you want to write, you have an idea for a podcast you want to put out. These concepts, these ideas roll around in your head for a while. You might write them down. You might develop plans. You might develop goals. But it's a concept that you are pregnant with, that you conceive either from your own mind or the mind of another. And when you give birth, when you manifest that idea, that business is now right there. When I moved to Detroit to be the captain under Minister Khalid Shabazz in 1996, he put in my mind the concept of us opening a bakery in Detroit. I had other plans. I had other things I intended to do. But he was able to convince me and cause me to conceive of his idea and plan. And I conceived it and helped him to manifest. And an actual bakery, I looked at in one of the Muhammad Speaks that I looked at, there was a grand opening of the bakery in Detroit where they had the showing the building, showing the signs, showing the baked goods. It was born. So you can take all of the language associated with the physical conception of a child and apply it to the conception of an idea, and then give birth to that idea. And that's what occurred with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Master Farad Muhammad. And Master Farad Muhammad planted all of these ideas for mission to carry out. And all that was written for him to do was written in advance of the birth of both Master Farad Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah. Yet, we can read it and see exactly what was written come into existence. A spiritual woman who was a virgin was impregnated by God, conceived God's child, and gave birth to it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave birth to the lost foundation of Islam, which he said to us was a mere example of what we can achieve when we come to you. And he gave birth to the firstborn spiritual son, who was born with the same truth that appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad from among us, getting that truth from the womb, the mind of the most honorable Elijah. Thus, we have a man fulfilling the spiritual role of a woman, being conceiving the ideas and spirit from that man and giving birth to those ideas of the spirit. Thus, we have a spiritual woman who gave birth to our nation. So we refer to him as our spiritual mother. We refer to his birthday as Mother's Day, and we honor, respect, elevate, and express our gratitude and appreciation to our mothers on October 7th, representing the birthday of the Honorable Elijah, our spiritual mother. So I'm coming to you again, as I said, from LA. I will be doing this now weekly. I am focusing my attention on the ethnogenesis of the Afro-descendant nation. Ethnogenesis just simply means the birth of a new people. And I want to come back to the diversity that we consist of. We have a term or a nationality or an identity called Afro-descendant. This term or this name did not come from the lost foundation of this law. It did not come out of the mind of the Honorable Silas Muhammad. In fact, it was in use long before we used it. Afro, we call ourselves in the United States of America, African Americans. Where that came from, maybe you know better than I. I told it was from Jesse Jackson, but I don't know that to be true. But I do know that in the other parts of the slavery diaspora, in Peru, South America, Central America, the Caribbean, they refer to themselves with the prefix Afro, Afro-Bolivian, Afro-Peruvian, Afro-Colombian, Afro-Cuban. And when they speak of themselves collectively, they say Afro-descendants. So we didn't come up with this name. In fact, about it, when the Honorable Elijah, pardon me, when the Honorable Silas Muhammad began to engage with the United Nations and speak on behalf of the slavery descendants of the United States of America, he was guided through the writings of the human rights experts who were hearing his interventions, that the UN doesn't hear the cries of small groups, they hear the cries of the whole nation. And that while Black people in the United States of America are a large number, 40 million, we are a small number in comparison to the number of Afro-descendants who have had our shared experience. And the United Nations guided him to include the others in order to be heard, at which point he began to request of the UN to hold regional seminars inviting Afro-descendants from other countries where they were enslaved and are now domiciled, to bring them into the conversation, which also fulfilled a prophecy from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where he said that we would reach down into South America and the Caribbean and gather up more of our people on our way home. So the nationality Afro-descendant that we now use as our, proudly use, I should say, as our national. And we need to come up, as Mr. Muhammad suggested recently, with a way to celebrate. We need to celebrate and have a big party for our new nationality. Well, the nationality Afro-descendant is all inclusive. All inclusive. As I said, we are as diverse as any people that exist on the earth, and we are probably more diverse than any other people on the earth. The definition of Afro-descendant. The nationality Afro-descendant refer to people who were forcibly dispossessed of their homeland, Africa, who were brought to the American and slavery diaspora for the purpose of slavery, were subjected to slavery, were subjected to forced mixed breeding and rape, have experienced through force the loss of mother tongue, culture, and religion, and or have experienced racial discrimination due to lost ties or partially lost ties of their identity. And these people meeting this definition are also experiencing a ethnogenesis, which is an international term meaning the birth of a new people. We are a new people, having been made a new people by our enslavers with this common background and experience. If you descend from this, you're an Afro-descendant. It matters not whether you are biracial. In fact, where we are today is in the day of separation. That's the time we're living. We're living in the time or in the day of separation. And it is not the separation that was brought about by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The separation brought about by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was the separation between black and white, physically. The black Muslim and the white man is the devil. Separation. We are not them, they are not us. Today, we are making a different kind of separation. We are separating today those who have a black mind, who are black or Afro-descendant, and those who have a white mind, who are black or Afro-descendant. We want to make that distinction today. I'm reminded when I look at how this year 2024 started off. We had our brother Cat Williams be interviewed, and they said he broke the internet. He didn't break the internet. No, sorry, he did not break it. He demonstrated how it can really be used and effectively used. And he fully exploited to our benefit the use of the internet. And the thing that I saw that I admired was the truth stands over here, and everything that's not the truth stands over there, and we shining the light on you. We're calling you out because we want righteousness and truth to prevail today. And then he put some folks on this side, he put some folks on this side. And that same spirit I see in my, I'll call him my homeboy because he's my homeboy. I'm from Compton. Kendrick Lamar. They're not like us. Same spirit. He demonstrates the separation based on the mind part because he called in his so-called beef, I call it war, with Drake. He called him the colonizer. You are not a colleague, you're a colonizer. But Drake is a biracial. Drake has a black father and a white Jewish mother, and he's from Canada. Well, what I see Kendrick pointing out with that distinction isn't because he's half white, he's a colonizer, he's not like us. No, because he has the mentality of the colonizer. You don't have to be a biracial to have the mentality of the colonizer. You don't. Look at TV. Look at the black people who love the white man's world more than themselves. It's time to make a change. This is the day of separation. These are the days where you're going to have to choose your side because it's getting hot. It's getting hot. You ain't going to be able to stand on the fence because it's going to be on fire. You can't straddle that fence, fiery fence. You're going to have to choose to be on that side or this side. And on this side is a everlasting future in a nation that we create from our experience coming through slavery based on truth and fairness. Or you can choose to be a part of his society, which looks so pretty, beautiful, just so enjoying to ride around the first state and live that life. But thinking you can only get it over there. He hasn't always had that life. He started out 1555 coming over here, bringing us over here. He wasn't this, he didn't have these skyscrapers in Los Angeles when he got here. That's something he developed over time. We can do that, and faster, much faster. The example of what we may be able to do, we could look to Dubai. Dubai went from 1991 being a desert to now looking like the greatest metropolis that ever existed. Happened overnight. So we can move fast. We just have to believe in the concept of us as a nation and know that once we decide to pool our mental, physical resources and exploit them to the better good and greater welfare of the Afro-descendant nation, we will become the wealthiest nation on earth. Like we have always been. It's ours. It belongs to us. It's time that we take it back. We let it out to another man. That's what that whole story in the Bible is about. I can go on and on. It's time to bring it to a close. I apologize for not getting started on time. We did do the preparation work to be ready to start on time. We did a trial run. Right at the last moment, we decided to attempt to bring a microphone in to improve the sound. And the attempt to bring the microphone in to improve the sound caused a glitch that we couldn't unglitch. And that was the reason why we had you all waiting for the presentation to begin. This is August 21st, 2024, the day that the Lost Foundation of Islam began again for the second resurrection after his death with the passing of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it is the Lost Foundation of Islam that gave rise to the Afro-descendant nation. Without the Nation of Islam, there would be no Afro-descendant nation. With the Afro-descendant nation, we have a house for the Nation of Islam and you to live in forever. All praise be to the Lord. We have the legal right to self-determination. We need to understand that. We have the legal right to self-defense. We need to understand that. There are many ways that you can declare yourself the Afro-descendant and cause the world to recognize you as a member of the Afro-descendant nation. There have been many, many events that have happened this year that have been wonderful on our behalf. President Stephen Buchanan making an intervention at the United Nations requesting that we be made the 194th seat in the UN is significant. The National Reparations Convention that occurred in Washington, D.C. in May, very significant. I saw for the first time, not the first time, pardon me, what I saw significantly for the first time, Afro-descendants from different ideology, different dialects, if you will, coming together under our flag, supporting our call for reformation together, because it's all of us. We are all one nation, the Afro-descendant nation. We should say that with pride and proudly and shout it to the world and tell everyone about it. We will be having these virtual temple meetings weekly. I'll have another one on Sunday. And on Sunday, I plan to actually teach a lecture and again, I appreciate that you came out. I hope that you are inspired to continue to hear from the Afro-descendant nation, includes myself and other officers such as our president, the senators around the nation. We have two non-Muslim members of our government. We have a website where you can call in and vote. There's much going on. I would direct you to MuhammadSpeaks.com. I would direct you to the Afro-descendant or the ADN YouTube channel, the Muhammad Speaks YouTube channel. There's a lot going on. We want to get you up. We want to inform you. We want you to participate. We want you to recognize that all this that we are doing and have done has always been for all of us. We are not competing with you about a religious belief. We are not a religion at all. We are a government for all of us. And we want you. And in fact, we need you to come and join on, help us with this job. And you, most of you, many of you, are more qualified to run a government, to be senators, Congress people, judges, than are we because of your experience in our work. So come on to your nation, the Afro-descendant nation. Celebrate with us our new nationality and enjoy heaven on earth while you live. Thank you again for joining me. You have a wonderful evening. I guess I can open this thing to chat up the questions if anyone has any questions. Shadi, can you hear me, brother? Well, since I'm unable to communicate with Shadi, I am going to bid you all good day. Thank you for joining us. Assalamu.